Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. Week 5 in the National Football League. It keeps flying by, and the buys begin. Buys for the Packers, the Bears, the Steelers, the Falcons. So we move into that phase of the season where teams are off, managing their rest, and we have had a real rash of injuries so far. Don't expect to see Lamar Jackson this week. Obviously, teams have been playing without their quarterbacks. Backup quarterbacks always become such an important commodity in this league. But you've had some other really big injuries. Look at the injuries that Arizona has suffered at the running back position. The Giants losing Neighbors, the Dolphins losing Tyreek Hill. Down, and we can go on and on and on. I could sit here for 10 minutes and give you key injuries that are for guys who are already down for the season, other guys on the IR. So uh, the NFL is always a war of attrition, but even more so this season, where there have been so many big injuries early in the year. Um, Vikings in the early game again Sunday, this time against the Browns, with Gabriel starting at quarterback. He's finally put Flacco, and Flacco, listen, he's there to be the backup. When he starts, he doesn't expect to start. I don't think he's unhappy about going to the bench. Gabriel will start. Let's see how he does. The Browns have a good defense. They don't have much of an offense, although they do have some kids that look better on offense. So let's see how they start to develop. Talking about kids developing at on offense, the Giants awful win last week. Now, they didn't get that win because they were great on offense. They got that win because the Chargers were decimated on the offensive line, losing 3 starters, including John Hall to a high ankle sprain. But Dart did give them enthusiasm. He gave them a reason to believe, and he gave the fans a much needed lift. Now, week 2, as in the Dart era, they go down and play winless New Orleans. It's a game the Giants can win. They know that. This is a game where their defensive front can harass a quarterback who can be harassed. Now, can Dart do enough? Can they get enough as the receivers have to step up for Neighbors being gone? Can they keep Scatterboo on the field? He's very productive. He's basically averaging 6 yards every time he touches the football. He is a tough runner because he's low to the ground and he's physical and he's shifty. Plus, last week, I didn't think they threw the ball to him enough. I expect that to be a bigger part of the offense this week. He only caught 2 passes. He caught 6 the week before. Only caught 2 last week. So I would think that would be a bigger issue there. This is a game the Giants and Dable really need to win. If they get this win, yes, the schedule's brutal. Eagles coming up on Thursday. Then the Broncos, who were very good, back to the Eagles again. Then the Niners, who will be healthier by then. Then the Lions and the Packers right behind a game with the Bears. So there's a lot of very tough teams to play. But if he gets back-to-back wins, they're going to really start to buy into this program. And there's going to be an idea that the young Giants, led by their first-round pick rookie quarterback, are going to be giving you a reason why they're going to make their ascendancy starting now. And that could save Dable's job. Listen, his job is tied right now completely to Dart's performance, but it's also tied to getting some victories. And a win last week was a very big win for them. If they can back it up, and this would be a bad loss because this is a game that all year they've known they could win. This is a game where they're only a 2-point underdog, and really it's a toss-up game. And I think they can win it. So let's see what happens. New Orleans has never been an easy place to play. Saints have battled, but they're 0-4. 2 unbeaten teams. The amazing Eagles, who find a way every week, and the Bills, who you will see against the Pats this week on Sunday night as they look to take a enormous lead in their division. And then there's 3 winless teams. the Titans, the Saints, and of course the Jets, who will welcome in the Cowboys. The Cowboys come off that crazy tie last week where their offense played superbly. Dak put up big numbers. Their defense, again, huge problems. Uh, and they were riddled by loving the Packers. But Cowboys now 1-2-1. They need a win this week against the Jets. Jets should be able to move the ball against the Cowboys. Cowboys are going to move the ball against the Jets. This game is they're going to be point scored. The Jets have got to stop making all these mistakes. Penalties, dumb plays, unprofessional plays, personal fouls, turnovers, mistakes on the line. One after another, after another, after another. Now, I expect them, with Allen down, I expect them to really go into this game with a game plan that they are going to give Brees Hall the ball either through the air or on the ground 30 times in this game. He should have a very big game this week. If you have him in fantasy, put a star next to him. I think he's going to have a big game this week. And he should against the Cowboys. Dak will have a big game against the Jets. This will come down to whoever makes the worst mistake, and they're both capable of making plenty of them. Do the Jets get a win here? Who knows? They desperately, desperately, desperately need one. Aaron Glenn can tell you that it's different. But you know what? That'll wear off in a hurry. That goodwill will wear off in a hurry. Yes, he's a first-year coach, and you got to give him some time. But he hasn't changed anything about that culture. If anything, it's worse right now as they continue. A perfect example, they cut a returner not just because of a fumble, but because of some other things off the field and everything else. But they put in fumbles the ball to start the third quarter and fair catches the ball on the 2-yard line. You can't make these errors of omission and commission time and time and time again. And it does come down to coaching. Raiders and the Colts. Raiders lost a heartbreaker last week. I mean, getting a field goal block at the end of the game. One thing that was big for them last week was after a couple of rough weeks, Genti finally played like you expected him to play. Big running game, over 130 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns in the game, 1 rushing, 2 receiving. So a big game for the young first-round pick. Now he goes up against, or he's showcased in the same game against the 3-1 Colts, who really could have beaten the Rams last week. Stafford hit him with that late pass, but I tell you, the Colts had their chances, and they played him toe-to-toe. Taylor leads the league in rushing with 414 yards. Obviously, you have all the eyes on Genti on the other side. Raiders can hang in this game. I think this game will be close. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts win it on a late field goal. They've had a couple of games go that way. Come down to the last play a couple of times. The Denver game last week was a late decision. I think this game will be close. I just don't know if the Raiders are ready to win yet with this group. Big game with the Broncos. Off a big win against the Bengals. Pounded the Bengals. We'll get to their problems in a minute. Broncos, offensive line solidified, getting good production from. Hey, listen, I've told you this for years. When Dobbins is healthy, he is good. And he's operating behind a good offensive line. Eagles are 4-0. They find a way. They find a way. Last week, holding off Tampa Bay. The week before, obviously, the blocked field goal. Now, they find a way to win, and there's always controversy. Brown, very unhappy that he only has 14 catches and 1 touchdown, tweeted something that they felt was a knock on the offense and on the quarterback. He says he didn't mean it. It was taken the wrong way. We all know that's not true. We know he's been that way before. So the Eagles are always putting out fires, but they keep winning games and finding ways. And listen, That's a culture. The Eagles find ways to win. The Chiefs find ways to win. They're used to winning. Their quarterbacks are used to winning. Their quarterbacks play to win, and it shows week after week after week. Although the Eagles haven't been ultra impressive, they are unbeaten, and they get an interesting test from the Broncos this week. Do not be surprised. Do not be surprised if the Broncos go in and beat them. Texans 1-3 and anything but impressive. Even last week against the Titans, they were anything but impressive. Their offense has been awful, but they got to win and a shutout. Ravens, hey, I picked Ravens. I picked Ravens for the Super Bowl. I picked Ravens and Rams for the Super Bowl. I thought this was going to be their year. I thought at the start of the season they were the best team. They have now been decimated on the defensive line, and they're not going to get better there. They have been decimated on defense, and now you have ripped their heart out because they will play without Lamar Jackson and probably play without him for a couple of weeks from what we understand with this hamstring pull. So right now, the Ravens don't even resemble the Ravens, and their season is on the brink. Rush is the backup quarterback. Obviously changes things dramatically. There's no one that can run an offense the same way that obviously Lamar does. Plus, the thing about him is he wins his games in the regular season. His problems have not been in the regular season. He's averaged 71% of his games he's won. But the point is, he has had trouble, and the team has had trouble getting it done in the postseason. Something always goes wrong. Now it has gone wrong in the regular season. I would say right now it's 70-30 that they don't make the playoffs. That's how bad their injuries are. Plus, they might play a month without their quarterback. Now, the schedule is going to ease up. They have lost to good teams. They lost to the Bills, and that first week, they had the Bills in that game at one point had less than a 1% chance to win that game, statistically. Less than a 1%. And they won that game. Turnovers killed them, and now their defense has fallen apart. And they've lost, though, to the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs. Those are three big teams. So it's not like they've lost to terrible teams, but right now they are decimated on defense, and they don't have their quarterback. They're not even a facsimile, in any way do they resemble their old team. Titans are 0-4, and there's a lot of talk about the coach not making the season. They're very disillusioned with what's going on there. Their offense has been non-existent. They got shut out last week. Now they go up against the Cards, who have been really riddled with injuries, losing two backs already. They are not getting a lot out of Harrison. They really have some issues there. Now, this should be a game where they get back on a winning track. I'm sure they will. But in the long term, the Cards have to be worried about a lot of things. The Titans are just trying to find a way to get better with their young quarterback. And you can explain records with their young quarterback, but they're not showing the progress that they expect. And there's a lot of buzz that he could be gone before too long. Now, Bucks are 3-1, Seahawks are 3-1. Watch the injury list for Irving for Sunday. He's got a sprained foot. He's questionable. Their offense without him, that's really tough. He has become a central figure in their offense. You know the Bucks will always move the ball. The Seahawks are a solid two-way team. They're a borderline playoff team. They're not a championship contender, but they are not a bad team either. And the winner is going to be 4-1 out of this game. So either the Bucks are going to be sitting there at 4-1, or the Seahawks are going to be sitting there at 4-1. And you know what? Either way, one of them's in really good shape. The Lions and the Bengals. Give the Lions credit. Give their head coach credit. After week 1, it looked like they had serious problems. They were obviously breaking in a lot of new coaches, 2 new coordinators. They had to make a lot of changes on defense. They had to make a bunch of changes on what was the best offensive line in the league last year. It was them and the Eagles. But they're 3-1. They've shown a pass rush. They've moved the football. They even moved the football on the Browns consistently. They have great skilled people, and they're in good shape. And they're gonna be a bigger threat than I thought they were gonna be this year. I thought they'd be a playoff team. Now I have to list them in with the contenders. In the AFC in the NFC, there's 4 teams. There's the Eagles, the Rams, the Lions, and the Packers. Bengals, hey, when you lose your star quarterback, it really just guts you. They had a lot of faith that Browning could step in and do the job. He had stepped in once before and gone through, I think 4-3 during his stint. He has not played well. They can't run the ball. Their offense has been shut down now. They have shown nothing the last couple of weeks. Uh, they were non-competitive against Denver on Monday night. The question you have here is, do they go shopping if this continues this week? And against the Lions, he could be on the run a lot in this game from a pass rush standpoint. Do they go shopping for a quarterback? And if they do, where do they shop? I've heard rumblings about them being interested in Jameis Winston, not Wilson. Now you would figure Wilson, but I've heard Winston. Now maybe it's an economic thing, more because the contract's better, or maybe they just think Wilson's done from what they've seen on tape. But there's not a lot of places, you can talk about, oh, can somebody get Cousins? Uh, can you get a Winston or a Wilson? Where else can you go to get a veteran guy? Will somebody jettison you a quarterback anywhere? Can you get one out of retirement? Stuff like that. It seemed like they were committed, but how many weeks are they going to be committed to having an offense that can't generate 300 yards offense, especially with their skill people? You're talking about one of the best wide receiver rooms in the game, and they can't score. So something's got to give in Cincy, and I think this game will make them move in some direction if he doesn't do anything against the Lions this week. Commanders, Chargers, obviously injuries are big in this game. Charger offensive line decimated, lost to the Giants because of it. That's not a game they figured to lose. They won 3 games in the division, then they went and lost to the Giants, who hadn't won. I'm sure Harbaugh was furious about that, but he also knows that he went into that game iffy on the offensive line, and then he lost all. Then the offensive line was absolutely destroyed. Um, Hampton has started to look like the back they thought he would be when they drafted him. And with Najee Harris down, he's going to be the guy. And he had a big game against the Giants. Washington, I believe, will have. You can't look at them the same way until they get Daniels back and healthy. Sounds like, but again, make sure you know, and you'll know by the line anyway. But is Daniels playing? I think there's a good chance he will this week, but I'm not 100% yet sure that he'll play. They need him back. They're a different team with him. Obviously, they need him back in the worst possible way. Sunday night, Pats will come off a rousing win over the Panthers. Bills at 4-0. Bills, the only team that's even near 500 in their division is the Pats at 2-2. They knock off the Pats here, and obviously they'll have a huge lead in the division, and they'll have the division wrapped up. Their schedule remains conducive to straight victories. They'll be 5-0 after this week. The Bills have to worry about complacency and not much else right now. They should be in great shape to dominate and have the best record and have everything go through Buffalo in this last year of that stadium. May's playing better. He's got more weapons. 7 touchdowns, 2 INTs. Pats are improved. A lot of people think the Pats are going to play great in this game on Sunday night. I'm not one. I think the Bills are going to put the hammer down. They haven't looked great in their wins. They let the Dolphins hang around. They let the Saints hang around. I think this week they come up with the A effort and they put a beating on the Pats on Sunday night. Monday night, Chiefs and Jaguars. Jaguars got a big win in San Francisco last week. Salah, who embarrassed himself here with the Jets, embarrassed himself in this game, getting into it with the head coach of the Jaguars. Okay. I think when you are a head coach like Liam is now, you have to back off, not get involved in that stuff, especially with a coordinator. They both were apologetic during the week, so let it go with that. Chiefs were 0-2 and looked bad in the first half against the Giants. They came out the second half, they started to look a little better. Now, last week, they beat on the Ravens at home to get to 2-2. They have Worthy back, and they're starting to look like the Chiefs. Their defense is there. Jags are 3-1, but they're winning with defense, not with offense. The offense hasn't clicked the way you thought it would under what is an offensive mastermind. This would be a huge game for the Jaguars. It's a showcase game on Monday night for the Jaguars. I think Kansas City responds. I think they win going away. I like the Chiefs this week. I think the Chiefs are showing you that they want to make another big run. It looks like right now, when you look at the schedule and you look at everything, you look what's going on with Baltimore, you look where the Chiefs are, the Chargers with their offensive line problems, and you look at the AFC and you say, all roads this year in the playoffs are going to go right through Buffalo. Barring something happening to Josh Allen, they're going right through Buffalo. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Like I said, there's been a million big injuries. More than I can remember early in the season. Devastating injuries to big stars. Defense, offense, everywhere. Look at last week, 2 of the top receivers in the league. 2 of the real star receivers, neighbors for the Giants, Tyreek Hill. Serious injuries. As I said, buys this week for the Packers, the Steelers, the Bears, and the Falcons as we begin. Now, a couple of notes, and then I'll get to a couple of emails for you. Mike Francesa newsletter. Sign up for the free Mike Francesa newsletter. You get exclusive content, contest offers, all different stuff, goodies, and it's all free. Go to the MikeFrancesa'Podcast.com and sign up. All you need is to give us your email and away you go. The football squares. It's a nice way to have a little extra action, a little extra fun. Now, players who place a qualifying same-game parlay of at least $10 on eligible NFL and NCAA football games will receive one standard entry into the weekly squares game. Winning standard squares will be awarded a prize of a $20 bonus bet. See app and website for more details. Now, as I said, we haven't gotten to emails in a while. They always stock up. Let me grab some here. Remember, you send your emails to Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. The first one just jogged my mind because it's from a John, and I wanted to mention something. You saw the release, I'm sure, about John Mara being ill. I just wanted to send along my prayers and good wishes for a speedy recovery. He obviously is facing a battle right now. You read the release. He asked for privacy, asked for his family to receive privacy. Everyone should absolutely obey those wishes. Um, hope he's getting good care, and hopefully things go very well. And all you can do is just send along your best wishes and your prayers for for the best outcome and a good recovery for him. John reminds me a lot of his father. I mean, I think it'd be hard for that not only has followed in his footsteps, but he kind of just reminds you of him in so many ways. He's a good man. I've known him a long, long time. He's obviously been a very familiar face as the owner of one of the great franchises in American sport. Um, and he's a solid guy. He's a good man. Listen. The Giants are his love and his life. That's what he's spent his life doing. So when you pound on him, as I do sometimes, he gets mad at me and stuff like that. But he's a good man. He really is. And I wish him well. Now to the emails. This is from John. Why are the Giants and the Jets so reluctant to change MetLife Stadium? It is costing both of their franchises severely with how many ACLs and other injuries. This has been studied. It's been talked about. I know how unpopular the Giant Jet Field is to opposing players, to the Jet and Giant players. Nobody likes the field there, but they're playing on a field that is similar to a lot of other fields in the league. It should not be the issue. It has a reputation. I don't know if statistically the injury numbers are more dramatic there than they are somewhere else. I'd have to see data that proves that, but there is that feeling that it's a bad field and a dangerous field, and it has always been that feeling. What they do have is a crummy stadium. They built a lousy stadium, let's be honest. I mean, when you see these gorgeous palaces, innovative, beautiful to the eye, aesthetically pleasing, very efficient. When you look at these beautiful buildings in Dallas, in Los Angeles, all over the country, and then you see what they built here, they shouldn't even have bothered. I mean, the old stadium was better. What time? How many times do you build a ballpark and the old stadium is better? I can't think of a worse building that replaced the building than MetLife. Nobody likes MetLife. Nobody. And it's just been that way since its inception. And like I know it's hard to build in New York. I know it's incredibly technical and there's a lot of red tape and it's incredibly expensive and you have to deal with 9,000 different entities. I understand it's very hard to build in the metropolitan area. And you hear that all the time. But I mean, they can build a gorgeous place in Buffalo and they can't build one here. It's just sad. That stadium should have had a dome on it, a retractable roof. It would have allowed it to have many other events, political conventions, Final Fours. At the time, it was about I think 200 and something million more, so they didn't want to do it. It would have. I understand it also takes away. There was a little thought of that because once you have a retractable roof, the NFL does not allow you to keep it open on inclement days. You don't get the choice to keep it open. If it's an inclement day, you have to close it. So I don't. That's a little bit of a factor, but that doesn't have. I mean, that's one rare day in January or February, not February, but January for a playoff game. December weather is rarely that bad. Once in a while, I mean, I've gone to games there where the weather was a huge factor. The windiest game I ever experienced there was an Eagle Giant game, the Randall Cunningham game. Um, that was, I think, the first weekend in December, and that wind was the worst wind I ever the NFC Championship game was bad with Washington, but I think that Philly weather was even worse as far as wind, and that's rare. But economically, it didn't make sense, and I've just never been a fan of the building. Bob, do you think Dable and the Giants would be in the same position today if they had been able to get along? If Dable had get along with Wink, uh, I don't think Wink would have been a savior. I do say this: a lot of the first year success was due to Wink's defensive strategies and his boldness. Wink had a lot to do with that success that first year. So when you take a look at Dable without Wink, you see how unsuccessful he has been, and it does give you pause that Wink was a very big factor. And Dable has to prove that he wasn't by winning games, and let's see if he can do that. Because if he doesn't, he's not gonna listen, if he doesn't do it soon, he's not gonna be here next year. Ray, if the Jets were not a New York, New Jersey team, with how bad they've been for decades, would they have already been relocated? Well, I can't say they would be. I mean, listen, there are bad teams. There are teams out there that have been historically bad, and they don't go anywhere else. These franchises are all successful in the NFL. They're successful before they even sell a ticket. So how could they not be successful? But none of them have I should say this, very few of them have ticket issues because amazingly in the NFL, like when Arizona was terrible and they were in Arizona, the opposing teams all bought the tickets. It was a nice place to visit, especially in the colder months. And you went out there, played a little golf, and went to a game. And they'd sell 20,000 tickets to a Cowboy fan or a Niner fan. And so there's always people to buy NFL tickets, even when your team is awful. So I don't know if that would have been the case, but the Jets have been pathetic. Roger, does Scatterbull remind you of McCaffrey? Would he be better in the pass game than the run game? I think he's going to be very good in both. I think he's going to be very good catching the ball. I think he's going to be very good running the ball. He's very low to the ground, which is a positive. He's strong for someone that small. And he's feisty as heck. And he's got good hands. The one thing I would worry about, there's two things I would worry about with Scatterbull. Number one, I want to see how efficient he is on blitz pickup. I haven't gotten a real feel for that yet, how good he is on blitz pickup. Number two, can he stay healthy? He is so physical in his approach. He is so physical in his running style. I wonder if someone that small can stay healthy and touch the ball 20 plus times every game. Philip. Oh, and does he look like McCaffrey? Not really. No, he's got I don't know if he looks like anybody. Remember the little bowling ball Nottingham? He's like a faster version of Nottingham, but he's not as roly-poly as Nottingham was. But that's who he reminds me of more than anybody else. Philip, is this a win or bust year for the Bills? I don't know what that means. I mean, if the question, what happens to the head coach if they don't win? I don't think they would change the head coach. If he goes to the championship game and loses, they're not going to change a coach who goes to the championship game. This team is headed to the AFC title game this year, minimum. What they do when they get there, let's see. I think there's a very good chance with all roads going through Buffalo, most likely this year, the way things are shaking out. I think it's going to be very hard to keep them out of the Super Bowl this year. Things are breaking very right. And I thought the Ravens were the best team, but they are they will never be at full strength this year like we expected them to be. They've lost defensive linemen for the season. They've lost secondary players. They are banged up everywhere, and now their quarterback's hurt. And if he misses a month, they could lose 3 out of the next 4 games, and then they're not gonna make the playoffs. Or they'd have to rally to where they can't lose in the second half of the season to make the playoffs. Um, Mason, why would the Browns draft 2 quarterbacks this year, making it now awkward when they make a change? I didn't understand at all what the Browns, it was almost like, "Bring them all in, we'll take a look. Bring them all in, take a look," you know? And then watch, if they finish with a record that puts them in position to get the first draft pick, they'll be talking about them taking another quarterback, especially if Manning comes on the way they expect him to come on. I'm not sure Manning would wanna go to Cleveland, though. You remember Archie, who spent his whole life in NFL purgatory. He was with a bad franchise that never got better. He could put up amazing offensive numbers and still lose the game. I mean, I'm not kidding. He could put up 40 and lose. In those days, you didn't have free agency, so you were bound to that team where you could go home and pump gas. It was a different world we lived in, and, it definitely affected how he thought about his kids, and that's why he managed and worried so much about where they came out, when they came out, and where they went. That was very, very important to him because he saw the other side of it. And I've said this many times. Tom Landry, I mean, someone as noted as Tom Landry, one of the great football minds, one of the great football people of all time, said, "Hey, the difference between Roger and Archie was that Roger came to the Cowboys." That's a There's no higher compliment you could pay a player that you're comparing him to Roger. Now, Roger, I think, was a little better, but you know what? Archie was a great player. He had great talent, and he was in a place where it never worked. And obviously, it was very hard for him to take a beating like he took all the time, be heroic in defeat as he was so many times, and just lose game after game and take beating after beating and watch everybody else win Super Bowls. And it had to be heartbreaking. And that's why he was so adamant and is so adamant about where guys go and who coaches them and what teams they go to, because he wants them to have a chance to succeed. And he wants them to be in the right position and coached by the right people. So let's be honest. He did a great job managing the careers of Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. Peyton's one of the great players of all time and won 2 Super Bowls, and Eli is a Hall of Fame quarterback who is a 2-time Super Bowl MVP and 2-time Super Bowl winner. They both have had great post careers. I mean, hey, he could put out a textbook. You couldn't do better with 2 players than he did with both his sons. It's remarkable what they've accomplished. Manning Incorporated is unbelievable. I mean, think about it. Who's had more success than those 2? I know the Kelseys are trying to come up on the outside, but, the quarterbacks still rule. We'll see you later.